Hi, Gail. Hang on a minute. I've got to get over to YouTube. Let me see if this is still live. Okay, guys. So yesterday, we started watching a video, and I showed you that random guy, Jeff, who was adopted, had met a woman named Suzanne Pleva in an adoption group. And he said to me, Carolyn, would you be interested in interviewing Suzanne? Now, I'm going to tell you what is really interesting here, and that I had forgotten about, was the case of Tara Lee. Tara Lee was a baby broker, and it was a case that was going on. And what she did was, and that's what that woman Suzanne is speaking about. And we thought she was going to talk more about the Tara Lee case because allegedly she was one of the people whose baby was, I guess, involved in this in some fashion. We are going to go over the case, not tonight, and I'm going to do it in its separate video, of Tara Lee, okay, because she was sent to federal prison. And what she did, just in a nutshell, was she would prey on couples, people, single people, looking to adopt. And she would tell them she had a baby when she didn't have a baby. Or she would promise the same baby to multiple couples and go so far as to have them come to the hospital and hold the baby, all the while knowing she was not going to let them leave with that baby because that baby had been promised to like 3, maybe 4 different couples. She walked away with like $2.1 million with this scam. So Jeff, I guess, was under the illusion that when he had spoken to Suzanne in the past, I think that this was where the conversation was going to go, but sadly, it didn't go there because Suzanne seemed to be maybe, I don't know, just not herself. Let's put it that way. So prior to this, we had a call from a woman in Hawaii who was saying that a certain Christian Services adoption agency, she felt, did a forced illegal adoption with an underage birth mother. And then she got off the line. Suzanne came in. And then we also have a lady named Zelda, who at the time we didn't really even understand who that woman was because she went on to say like the most hateful crap you could ever imagine. I mean hate beyond hateful. So, but then we're going to have another caller come on who tells us, we're engaged with, and we have to end up muting Suzanne, who seems like, I don't know, I always think that she's in a plexiglass box or something. She doesn't even realize that she's muted. She's going on. And so, yeah, we're going to continue this right now. And I will be covering the case of Tara Lee in another video. All right, let me pull this down. This should be, I'm going to probably just back it up a little smidge. Because I think that's where we were. Let's see.
For some reason, you guys, I don't know. My brother is also like a male adoptee, you know what I mean? I actually think it's a good thing because it's like, that's people trying to find the truth out, in my perception. I'm like, to me, I think that's a good thing because I think that's a good thing. Like, members of the male species are, you know what I mean? Like, actually trying to be like, what happened? Like, what's going on? And my whole deal with that is like, if an adoptee is gonna contact me like that, I'm not gonna do the, I think that, blah, 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 blah. What I'm gonna say to them is, check the laws in your state about what's going on. That's the facts, like the truth, the facts, and the reality. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you were adopted, that means, Jeff, you know this, that means, unfortunately, if you were adopted, that means that, your literal identity.
Zelda, can you hear us yet?
Was that Carolyn?
You can hear us? Yeah, it's me.
Oh, okay.
Is Zelda with us now?
Yeah, can you hear us now, Zelda?
Okay.
Okay, you want to tell your story? I think she's still on a delay, though.
Okay.
Zelda.
Should I just keep talking? Whatever.
No, she's not
You know
muted,
what?
Lisa.
Carolyn, did you know that though? Like, an adopted person, literally, their birth certificate is falsified. It's literally, in quote, legally sealed from them.
Yes. I've explained before that my birth certificate
Yeah, no, I mean,
says that
did
my
I know that?
adopted parent-
I know that the names, I know that most adoptee parents or adopters or what change the baby's name.
Yeah, there's more to it than that though.
Carolyn, I think that she's talking about, and April down here in chat, just let me explain what mine is. It is falsified, April, in the fact that
This is the aircraft carrier shelter you seized, previously owned by a small faction of about 800.
I think she's still on a delay, though.
Okay.
Zelda.
Should I just keep talking? Whatever.
No, she's not.
Person, it's literally, in quote, legal.
Birth
Yeah,
certificate
no, I mean,
says that
did
my
I know that?
adopted parent-
I know that the names, I know that most adoptee parents or adopters or what change the baby's name.
Yeah, there's more to it than that though.
Carolyn, I think that she's talking about, and April down here in chat, just let me explain what mine is. It is falsified, April, in the fact that my birth certificate does not say that it's an amended or an adopted certificate. It has my adopted parents as being my biological parents on there. And so if I did not know or was not told that I was adopted legally by all intents and purposes, it would not show that I was adopted.
Did you know that, Carolyn, and everyone listening? Did everybody know that? That an adopted person, an adoptee, has two birth certificates. They have their rightful identity and proper paperwork birth certificate. Then they have a fabricated document which states that the people that adopted them gave birth to them. That's a real thing. So there's what's called the New York Initiative. So last year in the state of New York, now the Unseal Initiative, any adoptee, a person that's adopted in the state of New York, now will have proper rights and identity just like everybody else now. So that's very cool. We worked very hard for that. So
Your birth certificate does not say I was adopted, Joe Kena says.
No, it just doesn't have proper identity. You're basically like a trafficked.
I mean, you can call it falsified. In a way, I can see where it is in the fact that we have to fight to get our real, let's call it, our real or original birth certificate. Now, there's a possibility that the parent, the biological parent, hang on, Susan. There is a possibility that the biological parents didn't even issue a name to their child. I mean, that's possible too. Officially, you could be known in the hospital at birth as Baby Doe or baby, and then they'll take the surname of whoever
Right.
the adoptive parents are going to be. Like John
Baby
and
boy,
Mary
they
Smith,
could put
it'd
baby
say-
boy,
it
baby
would
boy.
say, yeah,
Right.
baby boy Smith or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So then it's not identifying information.
Right.
And yeah, I mean,
Who named you, Jeff?
Another
Who-
side
Jeff?
issue here.
Who named you, Jeff? Your adopted parents or?
Yeah,
Whoa.
adoptive parents.
So,
I don't even know if I had an original name. I don't know.
Carolyn, my original name is Susan Marie. I was renamed Suzanne.
Right, but I mean, every
Not
adopted,
just like that.
no, every friend, every relative that I have that's adopted a baby has named the baby as an infant, not a toddler, an infant has named the baby.
You're
Actually,
screwing with
I
legal
think that if someone,
literally, Carolyn. Hey, Jeff.
I think
just
if
got
someone-
Carolyn real quick, and Cheryl. Just so you know, my real mother was a missing person since 1986. I was born in 1983. I went
Zelda's
into
on
the
mute.
last known place that she was known to be at. Okay. I was turned away and
Why is
denied filing a missing persons report. for
Zelda,
my
you're
own
on mute.
mother.
You're on mute, Zelda,
if
and I can't unmute
someone
you.
adopts someone, a baby or a kid that is already a toddler, say they're a 2-year-old and they already have a name that they're used to going by,
I'll have a lot.
I
Now-
think that when they legally adopt that child, no matter what its name, I think they still have a right to change
Zelda,
it.
could you
even
go over
if
to the
kid
piano
is
and play a few
already
tunes?
A little bit older. Yeah,
I think it would
Susan.
liven up the night a little.
Susan. Hey, everybody. Susan.
Hey guys, let's hear what she has to say. I have to visit the bathroom.
Okay, take your time.
Oh,
All right,
then we're
so,
going to talk to Zelda. Susan. Susan,
Zelda,
are you there?
no, she went to the
Zelda
bathroom,
went to
Jeff.
the bathroom.
Yeah,
I'm here. I hear
Okay.
you.
Susan's still on, all right?
I'm on, and so Zelda.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
I still have an echo.
Oh, you have an echo. Okay. It's probably
I,
'cause
I'm,
Yeah, Carol, I'm sorry, and I do want Zelda. I want to hear her story as well. I just wanted to clear up that I think that if a child is adopted, even if they're a little bit older, say they're 2, say they're 10, I think that the adoptive parents still have a right to legally change their name.
I believe so
kid's name.
too. Is it right to change a 10-year-old's name? I mean, I don't think so, but
My
Yeah.
name was changed again when I was 15 years old because I became a ward of the state, and I think I've been over that before in here. I was left at a place, and so by doing that, my adoptive parents, my original ones, kind of gave up my rights, and becoming a ward of the state, I didn't want that. I was used to a family life, no matter how dysfunctional it was, and so they did what they call adoption technicality. I was readopted on paper to another family that happened to be, fosters also, but I didn't want to be a foster child. I mean, they're talking about orphan Christmas coming up and boys home and all this. I was still confident that the family that I knew was going to come and get me. And I did end up returning to them about 6 months later, voluntarily. So my name got legally changed, my surname, to Pratt when I was 15 years old. I wasn't raised by the Pratts. You understand what I'm saying? In fact, I barely knew these people except for maybe 2 months. I was under their roof. So that's pretty messed up. But I'm just saying, I think that whenever anybody readopts you, they have a right definitely to change your surname. And I think they could. I mean, if you wanted now, your sons, Ethan, if
yeah,
you
I could
wanted to
change
go
his
change
name.
his name.
Sure.
Yeah, you could change his name now if you wanted to. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are people that have changed their names. There's some girl I grew up with. She, about the age of 25, she changed her own name because she never liked the name her parents gave her, and they were her birth parents,
Right.
natural parents, or she hated it.
Right.
And
my
I still
daughter
call her by the
readopted.
old
We
name.
changed her name. We changed our adopted daughter's name when she was 5.
5.
Yeah, her name was Adna.
Oh, Edna, she probably liked that you changed it.
Mm.
Edna Alfredina Marcus Villa.
Oh, boy.
She was from an orphanage.
Yeah. Well, I know they changed them in China. Like they adopt 2-year-olds and they give them a new name and all that. So what's your story, Zelda?
Well, I was 17. Well, okay, now I'm going to tell you. My mom was an RN.
Uh-huh.
She was head nurse in a San Diego hospital, California, east of San Diego. And then she was always in OBGYN. And then that's where I had my baby. I was 17 years old. I was raped. I had been partied with Alice Cooper and his gang. And then I went to a home for unwed mothers called Booth Memorial Hospital in East LA. It was run by nuns. They were very supportive in letting me make my decision. They never pushed me. But they did tell me.
Zelda, can you just mute your whatever you're listening on, because it's echoing, and then you can just talk. Don't worry. Just yeah.
I'm muting. I'm just on the internet.
But is your phone on? Do you have volume on your phone that's playing?
No, my phone is turned off.
Maybe let me mute. Maybe I have to mute. Let me see if this is.
You said your internet's playing.
Is
If
that better?
anything, any device is going in your house with this channel, it will give the feedback and echo.
Oh, maybe because I have two windows open.
Yeah, just close it out right now.
So, oh, okay.
That's true, Sari. Sari just said the Booth Memorial Hospitals were in most major cities. That's true. They were a whole networked hospital group.
Oh, really? Booth Memorial?
Uh-huh. Yes.
I didn't know that.
I was thinking that it sounded familiar too. Yeah. We had or have one around here too, in the Midwest.
Because I tried to look it up in the internet because I'm doing my life story.
Right.
And I can't find anything. The hospital isn't there. There's nothing there.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So, but anyway, I was pregnant and 17 when I had my son.
Oh, wow.
Does that sound
What
better?
year was what year are we talking?
1969, December 13. That's when
Okay.
I had my baby.
That's my son's birthday too, by the way.
Really? He's
Yeah.
50 something now. That makes me, let's see, I'm 67. I was 17 when I had him.
That's my son's birthday. Wow.
And I had infertility afterwards. And I married a wonderful man, so I never had a child with him. And we turned to adoption. We adopted 2 girls in Mexico. One was 9 and the other was 4.5. So that was a very expensive ordeal. It was a Bertha Holt.
Oh, Holt Adoptions, yeah.
Yes. And we met Mrs. Holt ourselves. We closed the orphanage down. It was a big story in 1980. Geraldo Rivera and Sally Jesse Raphael and Channel 39 ran our story, how we were able to close the orphanage down because the children were being sexually abused.
This was in Mexico?
Tecate, Mexico. My husband has written a book about it, but we're still afraid because there was 8 people that got put in prison and they all died. So we're scared of them. They were bad people. They did satanic curses and crazy stuff.
Wow.
So
But-
how many children did you adopted 2 from there?
We adopted 2 girls from the orphanage.
Uh-huh.
And this was in 1982, 83, between 80 and 82 is when we adopted the girls. And I can't see you, so I don't know if I'm on or what.
You're good. You're talking. You're good.
Okay. So can you see my piano?
Yes, I can.
I can't play that good. It's got a player system. So if you hear me playing really well, it's because of the player system.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, the one girl that was 4.5 was very musically talented, and we put her in voice lessons, and she became, well, she worked for the television program It Is Written, and then she sang as a guest singer with the Heritage Singers. I don't know, those are we're Seventh-day Adventist. And my mother worked at the Adventist Hospital here in Portland, and where she was also OB/GYN nurse. And even with my mom's connections and our connections through the church, there's Adventist Adoption Agency. They wanted $10,000 to put down, and there was no guarantee you would get a child. So we went down to Mexico and adopted the 2 girls. And I would say it was incredibly hard because the girls have that reactive attachment disorder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
The RAD.
yes.
Yeah. That's hard.
And then my husband had cancer. He had oral cancer just a few weeks after we moved to Oregon. We moved to Oregon to get away from the publicity that the crap show that we left behind in San Diego with everybody knew us. And so it was a very high profile case. We were on the news every night. We have all the footage, but it really pains me to hear, what was there, Susan, to tell me that infertility causes narcissism.
Yeah.
I'm not narcissistic. I don't agree with that.
Me
Yes,
either.
you are focused, your focus does become surrounded towards getting pregnant and all these procedures and things like that. But I would have never thought to have taken anybody's child away. But before we adopted Deanna, or Edna, when she was 4, our lawyer, we had an attorney, Christian attorney in San Diego, and he called us and he said, I have a little boy for you to adopt. Can you go pick him up right now? So I said, yeah. So we drove the 5 miles away to his house, and the mother obviously had some mental health issues. And she didn't want little Daniel. He was 18 months old at the time. She had a half a grocery bag full of clothing and toys, and that was all he had. And I asked her, would you like to see Daniel? I don't want anything to do with him. Just leave me alone. And a couple of months later, I asked her, would you like to go to church with us and visit with Daniel? And she says, no. I said, I don't want him anymore. And then come to find out, she had done that to 2 other kids. So, but anyway, Daniel, we just had a feeling that Daniel, we really prayed about it. We believe in divine guidance. And there was a couple from our church. Daniel had brown curly hair, brown eyes. And this couple at our church had blonde hair, brown eyes. Oh yeah, Daniel had blonde curly hair. And our friends, I won't tell who they are. Anyway, they had 10 years of infertility and trying and failed adoptions and everything, and they were just heartbroken. So I asked them if they would watch Daniel for the weekend, and they said, oh yeah. So I sent all his clothing home with him, and then a week later I says, can you watch him for another week? Oh yeah, we're having fun. And then I made sure that the mother was going to relinquish her rights to Daniel. And I called my friends up and I says, would you call our attorney? And they did. And Daniel's adoption was done 6 months later, and he is the love of their life. He's now 30 something, but he came up to visit us a couple years ago. And it was awesome the way it turned out, because a week later is when we ended up getting Edna from the orphanage, because her mother had another litter of kids. She had 17 children, and as many fathers as she had children. And it was a very expensive ordeal, because we had to do adoptions on both ends, both in Mexico and the United States. We spent several $100,000 getting the girls adopted and giving them a naturalization, immigrating them and everything. So It was a very involved ordeal. But the Catholic home where I stayed, the Booth Memorial, was in East LA. And I left there in October, and I was 8 months pregnant. And I decided I wanted to keep my baby, and I'm glad I did, but I had infertility.
Mm-hmm.
So we just found out who the father was. He was part of Alice Cooper's entourage.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah. I'm writing
Jimmy just saw Alice Cooper this summer.
Yeah.
He just saw him in August. Yeah.
He scares me. He always scared me. But see, I grew up.
Is it the eyeliner?
Yeah, really. Yeah, too much eyeliner. It was just skinny legs. Ugh. But I wasn't into drugs. I was actually a good girl. I went to Adventist schools and the Adventist church my whole life, and so that kind of music was really creepy to me. But I didn't want to have anything to do with him. But my parents had turned me out on my own to live on the street by myself after our home was completely destroyed by the flood of February 1969. So I had no place to go. And so I went to this dance hall, and that's where Alice Cooper was. That was April Fool's Weekend, 1969, and he was debuting his song, School's Out for Summer. So anyway, my son did a paternity test, and we found out who the father was. And he is a serial rapist and spent most of his life in prison. So that was really sad for us. But then we were going to adopt another baby. And this was another high-profile case in San Diego. We had a friend named Ed. I shouldn't give his last name. Anyway, he had gotten a girl pregnant, and she was a Catholic girl, and she didn't want it. She contemplating having an abortion, and he got a court order to stop her from having an abortion. And then he wanted us to adopt the baby. So this was before we got the girls. And, or during, I forget, during the search or something. But he tried to, wanted us to have the baby, but the girl was fighting us because she wanted the baby to go to a Catholic home. So he ended up keeping the girl himself, and that was a hot mess. So, and it became a huge court case in San Diego, and this is 1981. So infertility is very heartbreaking because every month you're reminded that you're not having a baby. And I wanted my husband's baby so bad. Even though I'd had a child, I was alone when I was 17, and they tried to keep, my mom was my nurse. I tried to make amends with my mother, and I went down to El Cajon from Los Angeles, about 2.5 hour drive. And that's where I had my baby, was in the hospital where my mom worked. And they tried to keep the baby away from me. And I didn't get to touch my baby for 5 days. No, I'm sorry, 24 hours. And then I was in the hospital for 5 days. And during the 5 days I was in the hospital, they wouldn't bring my baby to me. They kept saying he needed to be under the Billy Rubin lights. And
oh, yeah.
So that was pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
But, and then I was 2 weeks after my son was born, I started working at Winchell's Donuts. I lied to the operator, said he was 2 months old because I just had a baby. You can't be on your feet, but I did.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm glad I did, because that's where I met my husband. And he's given me a life like you wouldn't believe.
Uh-huh. Well, that's good.
Yeah, he's a wonderful man. He's an engineer for Motorola, but he's married to Motorola. He won't retire.
Well, I mean, I think it keeps you sharp to keep working and stuff. I don't know. Some people thrive on it. Some people just say when they stop, it's just they're not happy, really.
Yeah, he's working on PSER and Puget Sound's emergency network, and so it's a 7-year project. I said, "You're going to die before it's done." but he loves his job, so that gives me time to play piano or learn how to play.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That
So,
keeps
but
you sharp
anyway,
too.
I know all of these adoptions, are, think of the child. You have to think of what is best for the child. If the child is already established in a home for, a year, 2 years,
Yeah.
ripping him out of that secure home, unless he's being abused, is that it will traumatize the child forever, and you will never gain back what was lost.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the circumstances were, why her rights were terminated, why the parents wouldn't, but from what I can hear, I can kind of guess why. But I'm only assuming. So, like Dr. Phil says, there's no matter how flat a pancake, there's always two sides.
Right.
So that's my story. But, I've been blogging my story. It's called On My Way Home, and it's on my YouTube channel, Zelda. So I have an author a very well-known author. He's written, 50 books. Anyway, he's agreed to do my story, so he's going to be helping me.
Okay, well, good. I mean, and who's the other caller on the phone?
Hi, I'm Christy. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Zelda. Hi, everyone. I'm the
Hello.
first mom of 28 years. I was injured through Bethany Christian Services in California. I relinquished fraternal twins, boy and girl, in the summer of 1991. But I'm patient. Go ahead, Zelda. I'm really loving what you're saying.
Well, I think about what I might have done is if I would have given my son up for adoption.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't live with myself knowing that I had infertility now. But not everybody has infertility because I was 17. It was 5 weeks after my 17th birthday when I got pregnant in March of 1969. And then I had my son December 13, 1969. And I was shamed. My parents were ashamed of me. My mother called me horrible names. I was just felt less than. And then working at Winchell's, practically living out of my car, I rented a room for somebody else. Mm-hmm. But my case is very different because not very many men will be willing to take on some other man's child. Mm-hmm. And they won't love your child like their own. I mean, look at Chris Watts, how much he loved his kids.
Right.
Not.
Yeah. Yeah, Chris Watts.
What a monster.
I mean, I think that at the root of everything, that is what it really comes down to. I mean, it's always the nature versus nurture debate. I mean, you can end up with adoptive parents who actually do love you, and do everything, provide for you. Mine did provide very well for me. But, in the long run, I'm not going to say they're not this, they're not that to me, but I will say that I still feel some kind of a void. And for me, I can't really put my finger on exactly, So that's where I come from.
My son feels a void, even though my husband was very loving to him. I mean, my God, my husband did everything for him, my son. Mm-hmm. He never treated him.
And I think that, Zelda, I do think that's all you can do. I think it takes a very, I'm sorry if someone gets offended, but a very special type person to adopt someone into their family. And I don't, Susan had some points that, Suzanne had some points that there are narcissists. I mean, there's narcissists that are and are not parents or adoptive parents. Mm-hmm. I mean, it happens. But, like you said, there's a void. And sometimes I don't agree with other adoptees that are on their search for their biological parents when they put some kind of an ideal on it. they think, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be just like I saw on the Montel Williams show or that reunion show on TV, and we're going to run into each other's arms at the airport and look just like each other and do everything. No, to me, that's ludicrous. These are strangers, and I said down in chat earlier that your adoptive parents can never be replaced. Your memories, your life, your experiences, they still help mold you, you know? They put their influence, not their genes, but their influence into you because you were part of their family.
Now, the girl that we adopted was 9, and it didn't work out. And she has a lot of serious issues. She's living on her own. She left her husband and her 3 children.
Oh, really?
Devastated.
Wow.
Yeah, devastated. And he was a very, very wonderful man. And then the youngest one has a lot of issues too. A lot of issues because they were in the orphanage and they were being sexually abused.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard. There was a lot of ones like that in Russia too. Didn't work.
And it affected my son because my son became jealous and he hates me for it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm a very broken person.
Oh, sorry to hear that, Zelda.
So you feel that you have a void too? I mean, does that go without saying?
Oh yeah, my parents were. My mom dumped me with my grandmother when I was just a few months old. My dad hated me. He took off before I was born. He moved to Florida. My grandparents were wealthy Mexican dairy owners. They had a dairy on Artesia Boulevard and then one in Van Nuys, California. The Van Nuys Quality Inn, and my father married my mom thinking that would be his meal ticket. My father was a con artist. And when he learned that my mother's parents weren't going to give him a free ride, he took off when he learned she was pregnant with me. She was 3 months pregnant with me, and he left for Florida. And then my mom left me with her parents. So I lived with my grandparents for the first 3 years. And then my mom came and got me and took me to Florida to use me as her bait to get my dad to love her, but he hated me. So he always blamed me. So he abused me physically.
Yeah, that kind of stuff happens too. I mean, anytime a child becomes a pawn in any adult situation is not right. I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah, the game.
I'm sorry too that you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you can look back and see that that's what was going on too. I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah, one of my stories is I spent 2 nights in jail and I was still in diapers. That's one of my stories that I have on YouTube. And then the one that I jumped on a 5-foot diamondback rattlesnake.
Oh.
That's a true story. I mean, all my stories are 100% true. It's just. Everybody goes, I cannot believe all your stories. I says, well, I'm having a polygraph done to show you that our true stories.
I can relate to that too. You guys know that. You guys know.
Yeah.
There's so much crap that happens to me that it can't be made up.
Oh, I know. I have one story.
In fact, I'm still hearing it from people like, oh, Miss Carolyn and so forth and so on. Yeah, I'm never going to live it down, but it's all good.
I think
love everybody here. So.
I think when we
You're
have.
talking about your marriage.
I think when we have holes in our heart that we try to fill them up with things. And that's why I believe Shanann Watts, I think she had a huge hole in her heart from her childhood trauma or something. I'm sure something happened, and that's why she was shopping and ignored the fact that they were sinking financially.
That's why a lot of people shop. I really, or just have they get almost such satisfaction if they're chasing something that's elusive. Like if it's like a rare collectible or something, they get that the chase of it is so fun. Like they say, oh, I have to have that one. I have to have that one, whether it's whatever it is. And then as soon as they get it, it's not fulfilling in many ways. And then it's like, oh no, that's not the one. I'm going to get another one. And then the whole chase is what's like the high, and then it gets a cycle.
Yeah. I'm too tired. I have fibromyalgia and I was diagnosed with lupus, but I have rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's disease. I have everything wrong with me. So I have pain. So I don't go shopping much, and we live out in boonies. So I stay home. I shop online.
Yeah, well, even shopping online, especially like eBay, like they search for like maybe it's just an old edition of something that's very hard to find, or a bit, you know, and it's the whole the hunt.
Oh, my husband's an engineer, and let me tell you, every penny must be accounted for because we got debt free 4 years ago, and that includes the mortgage. So, oh well.
What
I'm
kind
glad.
of engineer?
He has a degree in biomedical electronics and in electronics engineering. He has 2 PhDs.
Okay.
He's a genius.
Yeah, I was a structural steel engineer. That's why I asked.
He's a Motorola systems engineer. He builds all the 911 systems here in the Northwest. That's what he's done most of his life.
Carolyn, you were talking about. Oh, I was just going to say you were talking about a void. You know how people. I think all of us. I mean, we have our own vices, but we also. I think all of us feel like we have some kind of void, or else we wouldn't be still searching to fill it. I mean, that's just what it is.
I think everybody. I think you're right. Everybody has some type of a void. I don't think you get through without some type of a void somewhere.
And that's
something happens. Maybe you've lost your parents.
understand.
Maybe you've lost, had a loss in your life. Maybe whatever it is. But yeah, I don't think we get through life without a void.
That's why I get
Right,
Waldo
right.
sheet. I get Waldo sheets. I go searching for Waldo. Anyway, thank you so much, and I'll bow out. And
Oh, well, thanks for calling in, Zelda.
yeah, I need more subscribers to.
Go visit Zelda's channel.
Yeah,
Visit
it's
what is it?
you-
Zelda 77? What is it?
No, it's just Zelda.
Can you
Zelda.
post it?
Oh, just Zelda.
Post it
But
in
I
the link?
can't
Can
even
somebody
find
put a link in there for Zelda and Jeff's channel?
And then you can find me on. I jumped on top of a 5-foot diamondback rattlesnake, and then you'll find my other stories. It's crazy. We were in Grass Valley, California. I jumped in a ditch wearing little rubber thongs, and I jumped right on top of the rattlesnake. But I broke its head. I broke its neck. Or the one you can find but the spooky story for Halloween is my cat alerted me to a serial murder rapist at my window.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that is a really spooky story, and it's the honest to God's truth.
Did you just start putting this stuff up?
About a couple months ago.
Oh, okay, because I didn't know. All right.
Yeah, it's on my way home. It has.
For you
Yeah.
and Jeff, for you and Jeff's channel.
Thank you, and God bless. And I'm
God
sorry.
bless you
and that
too, Zelda. All
People
right.
have trouble and infertility and giving up babies.
Yeah.
It's better. I think it's better if you to let go and not look back. I don't know how one could do that. I couldn't have done that.
Yeah,
And I'm glad I didn't. I think that would have driven me insane. So anyway, thank you very much, Carolyn, and God
Okay,
bless.
thank you, Zelda. You too. God bless.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Now,
night.
our other caller is who? Hi, your name was?
My name's Chrissy.
Hi, Chrissy.
Hey,
Hi.
Chrissy.
Hi. So I'm calling because I'm actually friends with underage birth mother Valerie. I met her through the internet because of our common situation regarding Bethany Christian Services. My story is my dog's barking. Let me go shut the door. Hold on just a second.
No
She
problem.
won't be quiet because she's part Chihuahua. Hold on.
Oh, okay. Does anybody Sharon, are you able to post the link to Jeff's channel and to Zelda's channel? April? Danielle?
Yeah, she's a yapper. Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So what had happened was I also come from a trauma background. I did have a narcissistic mother. I had 4 stepdads. I was physically like knocked around, abused. I was neglected, but from the outside, you would never have known it. I grew up in, you know, the right neighborhood and such like that. So I was always searching for love, and I would date guys that were quite a bit older than me. So my mother, 3 days after my 18th birthday, well, let me rewind. At 15, my mom had engaged and married with this guy that totally just creeped me out. I'd never felt that feeling about a person before or since. So my mom had said, do you want to move with us? Or, you know, you can move, because she was selling our childhood home because she lost it in her third divorce. I said, no, Mom, you know, I'll go to an apartment, because I just had a really bad feeling about him. And so my sister had come back. She had went with her dad and came back from Washington addicted to meth. And I hadn't seen my sister for 4 years. This was in the summer of 85. I was turning 16 that October. So it was just a really dysfunctional time, but through all of that, I managed to get my GED at 17 without any really regular schooling, which was incredible to me still. So I turned 18 in October of 87, and 3 days later, I get a phone call, and my mother was found dead. My mother was murdered by this man. She was shot execution style. Yes. And come to find out, when I went to the detectives and all this stuff, he actually, I can let you know off thing, I can give you some information, Caroline, to back it up, but I prefer not to say it live. This man actually was arrested in 1982 for the murder of his first wife, and somehow he got off of it in Lake Arrowhead, California. So my feelings were right, and I kind of had to use that as a child to survive. You know, that inner
Is he in jail now?
compass. He's actually not, but because my mother, unfortunately, at that time, they didn't have the DNA like they do now, but the medical examiner had told me, we know this is a homicide. Her case is still open, and I do check back regularly, and I pester them.
Wow.
That this happened in San Bernardino County, and that's really not a very financially well-off area now. So it's kind of in the back burner. I would think it's a cold case, but they all had suspected this man. So that was I basically had a breakdown, because when my mother died, that was my only parent. The family was not supportive. My mom had come from a dysfunctional background. So I basically was out of it for like 3 years. I just kind of withdrew, and I kind of came out of my shell when I was about 20, and I lived in an area, and I met this guy who was working at a 7-Eleven, because I had an aversion to white men at that time because of all the abuse that I had because of them, and the rejection that I felt.
7-Eleven's like convenience store, right?
Yes. So what had happened was, this was around 90, and at that time, that area that I lived in was pretty suburban still, so you didn't see a lot of foreigners. This man was Afghani. So I was really intrigued by that, because I'd never been around that. I didn't grow up around it or anything. So it was kind of a 6-month googly-eyed thing. And so I finally gave him my number, and just things really took off. Okay. And so I didn't know about the culture.
I have of Afghanistan, it's like literally geographically, when I think about it, is like, I'm thinking like Punjab, like, you know what I mean? The way
No, Punjab's in India. He was actually Pashtun, but are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm American right now. Like, I'm literally geographically thinking about, like, I don't know why would you mention that? Like, what's the significance of mentioning that this guy is?
Well, she's trying to tell her story.
I happen to be half Afghani as well, so I feel like I can mention that.
What the significance of that is? Okay.
So anyhow, what had happened was, Carolyn, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So what had happened was, because I had not been raised in the culture and all that stuff.
Sure.
I didn't know. We kind of started off really hot and heavy. And I really loved this man. I really, really loved him. And I thought I had a life with him, but I didn't know. So I did become pregnant, and I didn't know. When I told him that, then he tells me, well, you need to abort it now because I'm married back home and I have 6 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was very traumatic. So I was not going to abort my baby. I'd wanted a baby my whole life. I mean, I've always wanted to be a mom. And so anyhow, I went ahead and went into the Planned Parenthood and did all that kind of stuff. And so got the OBGYN appointments. And I was planning to keep my child with or without him. I was not going to abort my child. So I go to my January appointment, and I remembered it was January 16th because the first Gulf War had just broke out. And that's so weird that I remember that. So I go in, and the doctor says, you feel a little bit big for the time that you're telling me. It doesn't seem right. And I said, well, this is what happened, because I'd never been pregnant before, and I actually didn't know if I could become pregnant because I was diagnosed with endometriosis.
I see.
So they find another baby.
What is endometriosis? Like, I'm not sure if I know what that is.
I really don't know. I don't know. But obviously I didn't have it because I was pregnant with twins. So they found another baby behind the baby.
I hope you're okay with this. I'm just going to give everybody via chat what I pulled up. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Why is that a problem when you're telling people that you're biracial? Are you having a problem with me saying the ethnicity of my beloved children? Because I'm very proud of it, by the way.
Yeah, that's why I'm like excited about it, because I'm like, hell yeah, man. Oh, you're thinking oh, no, not at all.
Well, I don't know what to think because you're asking me why I said that, but we all identify by gender or we say our ethnicity.
Like, I was like, cool.
Okay. Well, I was just making sure because I didn't, everybody's really sensitive nowadays.
Oh, I see. You're thinking I'm the other way. Oh, no, I was like, cool. How come I don't? It made me feel, honestly, it made me feel like I was like kind of like dumb American kind of. That's why I was like, oh, shit. Like, why don't I know about your culture kind of deal? That's actually what I felt about that. Not
cool.
Yeah. That's why like, maybe I should like post that so people know about your culture. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So what had happened was, oh gosh, now what was I telling you about? Okay, so they found the second one, and I didn't know what to do because I had no support. I was truly, truly alone. A credit card was being thrown at me, and he said, when I told him, I went back and I said, oh my God, it's twins. And he said, threw the credit card at me and said, get rid of those bastards, and I never want to see you again.
Wow. How old was he?
He said he was 35, but I'm thinking he was like, probably maybe 40. I was 20 when I met him, and I was just turned 21 when I got pregnant. My first pregnancy ever, so it was just crazy. And it was just, I just remember going out, I had an old VW Bug, and I just remember going out to my car and crying because I was just like, how am I going to keep these babies? I want these babies so bad, but how am I going to do it? Mm-hmm. I remember my family basically telling me, because he was a foreigner, my mom's side, because they were from my grandparents were born in the early 1900s. Right. My grandfather wouldn't let me in the house. One of those kind of families.
Yeah, and just like excuse it away.
Yeah, like the one you said you described, your adopters or whatever.
Okay.
So pretty early on, I was on and off therapy because of issues of my childhood and losing my mom like that. So I had shared with my therapist what was going on with me. And she had matched me up with a woman from church. And pretty early on, I just, the word adoption started coming out. And you have to understand, I, along with a lot of people, grew up thinking this was a beautiful, the narrative of adoption was that it was a very beautiful thing and a very selfless, loving thing to do. So I kind of also was pushed in that direction of, well, you don't have any support. Not that they couldn't find anything else to peg on me, like, oh, you'd be a bad mother, but it was like, you have no support, and it's not one, but it's two. So pretty early on, about the 4th or 5th month, adoption came into play. Bethany entered into my life, unfortunately, and it kind of just went sideways from there. What had happened was I had went to one that was more local to me, but I wanted more diverse parents selection, because I felt like I had grown up with people that had been adopted and they had issues with that. The mirroring or whatever that they called. I'm just learning all of this stuff now because
what is it?
I'm coming out of the fog.
It's, what'd you say, demurring?
Mirroring, like a mirror. But,
mirroring. Okay, gotcha.
Yes,
mirroring.
Because my children are exotic looking. They're tan. They're olive skinned, and they, they were showing me a bunch of portfolios, and I was like, well, I want my children to feel. I was really, everything I was doing, I was thinking about them. Like, I want them to feel. But what I know now, it didn't matter.
Right.
So I found, it was like amazing. The woman's like, I switched to the one in LA, the one that Valerie, underage birth mother, relinquished, or sadly had her son relinquished from her at that same office, although mine was in Bellflower at the time. But it's the same office, basically. So what had happened was they told me, we found a perfect couple for you. She's Indian, but born in America. She's of Indian origin, and he's white, so they'll look like they're the biological parents. So I was really angry, Karen. I didn't want to go through any of this. I was hurting. I so much loss. I didn't want to lose my children. That was the last thing I ever wanted. And I was pissed. I wasn't cooperative. I didn't like I didn't like any of this, but I didn't see any other way.
Oh, should I'm sorry. I muted you by mistake. Hold on. Okay.
Okay.
Jeff wanted me to mute him. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So I didn't know what to do. I mean, I didn't want to be out on the street, because literally that was a choice I was looking at with 2 children and by myself, because the father was basically took off and threatened me. That was the time when that movie Not Without My Daughter was coming out with Sally Field. And and so my neighbors, she was actually working for the sheriff department. She gave me that book. She was so worried about me. And I know now that he would not have, just because I know him. But at that time, because I was so young, he knew how to manipulate, and he threatened me. And at that time, it was very easy to kidnap kids and get them to other countries. It has happened a lot until it's, almost impossible now, but it happened a lot back then. And so he threatened me. He said, I will kidnap those children, and you will never see them again. And I will never let you walk with my son on this, because the boy was very important, the son. Right. And the daughter would probably be, he said, she will never leave the home, the classic, whatever. That's what he was old fashioned or whatever. Culture, that's what he wanted. Yeah. He was definitely into the culture. Even though he was here, he was into his culture. So he was very abusive, not physically, but very mentally abusive. I was called all kinds of names about what kind of woman I was and all that I was good enough, to have fun with. But yeah, he didn't want them. So he left, and I was frightened. I was so alone and frightened, and I literally hid out until I had a cesarean. I was in the hospital for 5 days. I met this couple twice, and I told the director, I don't get a good feeling about it. I just don't, and I don't feel it. They were very cold and weird to me, because the mother had said she was infertile. She was only 25. She'd married her husband when she was just barely out of high school. So that was a little odd too, but they'd had a daughter that was a year and a half older that they'd adopted from the agency. So I thought, that would be great, that they'll have siblings. And her dad was from India, and the mother was a Caucasian. So they were almost basically all of them would look like siblings. And so I thought this was awesome. But then they started to, want to push themselves. I want to come to the hospital, this and that. And I didn't want them there. I was grieving, because I knew what was ahead of me, more loss,
Right, yeah.
more loss. And I was in shock. Literally, I can tell you through my whole pregnancy, I was just in a haze. You know, oh my God, you're having twins, and that's so cool. And inside, I'd be like, yeah, it's really cool. You know, I'm going to be having to give them away to somebody else. It was devastating.
Yeah.
So I didn't like them, to be very blunt. And I got the vibe that the adopter mom did not care for me because she mistook my anger and my grief in a way that she couldn't understand, because she was not losing anything. She was gaining. And so what had happened was I had given birth and I didn't want to place them. So I placed them in foster care because I was trying to find any way to keep my children. The social worker at the hospital was giving me her baby girl stuff, her bed, everything. The woman who sat at my head from the church, who was an angel, an absolute angel, was telling me, are you sure you want to do this? They didn't want to see this. My doctor, who was this wonderful man, this little Nigerian guy, you know, I just loved him. He said, I'm going to keep you in the hospital another day. I don't want you, are you sure you want to do this? That's what he told me. Are you sure you want to do this? So there's a lot of speculation, but what I witnessed, and it was a Catholic hospital, by the way, and even the nuns were very loving and supportive. And I never, on my end, felt anybody wanting me to relinquish them. They actually wanted them to stay with me. So they were finally, my son was adopted first, and mainly because of the fear factor, because I knew the dad was lurking somewhere around in California, and he was. And then I tried to bring my daughter up, and then I thought, well, I can't do this. They grew together. Even though they weren't in the same sack, they grew together. They were twins. And I just didn't feel that it was right to have them apart. So, of course, the director and all her, you know, adoption is profit. It equals, I mean, they're not working for free. She said, you know, they'd be more than happy to take your daughter. So I get my daughter out of foster care and I have her home for about 3 or 4 hours, and she just would not stop crying because she was separated from her brother. And I just called him and I said, you know, I can't do this. I don't feel right, you know, separating them. So they went, the director came out and got my daughter, and I just collapsed. I remember her leaving, and I just laid on the bed and I just dissolved. I broke down. I was just crying. My stomach was flat. I missed my babies. I can't even explain it, what that feeling was, but it was awful. And I was wounded. I was hurting from the C-section. So fast forward to the adopters. I had opted for an open adoption. Now you have to remember, in 1991, there was no internet and all that stuff, but I did opt for open adoption through Bethany Christian Services, meaning I did intend to see my children again one day, and I did want them to have a good feeling about me. I wanted to get 2 times a year, I think, updates, because they basically, like Valerie, I didn't know. And there's a common theme with Bethany, and it's not just me. We're meeting all different, we're kind of networking now. There's a common theme that I've noticed, and I remember vividly from the time that I was being counseled. They don't give you your options. You need to ask. And when you're that young, you don't know your options. I was alone and angry. I was also not given any financial help, nothing. My Medi-Cal paid for the pregnancy, which I'm sure it was quite a bit. It was a cesarean. I was in the hospital for almost a week. They paid, you know, for my children, and I'm sure they paid a lot for them, but I got absolutely no help, no offer of anything from Bethany. And I wouldn't have taken money in the first place, because originally I was with a lawyer and I dropped his services because I didn't want to feel like I was selling my children. So the thing I really want to say is we will never stop adoption, because there are some instances where it needs to be done, where there's true abuse and there's true, there are a lot of women that should not be mothers and don't want to parent.
Right.
But it's tragic with people. Like, I have PTSD. I grieve for them. I've since went on. 13 months later, I was blessed with a little baby girl, my baby doll. And then 7 years later, I was blessed with my little baby, who's 20 now and going off to college in January. And my other daughter is engaged, and she moved across the country, and she's 27 and 20. And then the twins are 28. And what I'm trying to say is,
Do you see the twins now?
No, this is what I'm getting to. So the birth mother, I did, what had happened after 4 years, the adopter mom had become pregnant with her own child, which she had wanted all along.
So just, I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So this is the same birth, the adoptive family that you had before?
Yeah, there's only one adoptive family.
Because I know that you called it off and you put the kids in foster care, right?
Well, no, I had put it on hold.
Oh, put it
but
on hold.
It was always the same, because at that time, I just thought, oh my gosh, what's best? I don't want people to say, oh, this can't be your, that kind of stuff, because I grew up in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, and I remember kids getting that.
But, anyway, in all honesty, I have a girlfriend, she was married to an Asian man, and she was always told, where did you adopt your children from? You know what I mean?
No, I know. But things are they're so much better today, education, it's open. It's way more open. And just to think 28 years ago is not that long ago, but it's like a lifetime in the progress that we've made, Mm-hmm. So the sadness comes, let's say I'm getting my measly out of focus pictures, my updates, where she's just the sweetest pie, the adoptive mom. Mm-hmm. I call her the adopter because I don't have a good relationship with her. And she went on later on to abuse my children. And I'll explain that. Okay. So what had happened was she had wrote me and said she was expecting a baby in 95. And I congratulated her. I wanted to keep things copacetic because I wanted to keep in my children's lives. But like with Valerie, Bethany made sure that I had no contact. I didn't even know their last names. I didn't know where my children were living. I didn't know any phone numbers, nothing. And it was a horrible feeling. It was a horrible feeling. And I always explain.
Super hydration keeps me 24/7 moisturized and smells like a Fiji vacation.
This to people after I know what I know now in 2019. It's like a living death every day, because they are very much alive, but to me they're dead. And I'll explain this to you why I say this. So she had her son, and unbeknownst to me, after that, everything stopped. And I was raising my daughter, who was 3 at the time. So I was a single parent for a short time, and it was a lot, plus all the stuff I had dealt with in my life. So I didn't pursue it. And I just thought, well, they're doing great. They're having this better life that was promised to me, and this beautiful life. And they'll come back and they'll thank me for the selfless thing that I did for them. That wasn't the case. So I had moved to the Bay Area in 2003. And I guess my kids had tried to get in touch with me, and I had not updated my address because, truthfully, Carolyn, it was just so painful. It was so painful to see their faces and hear, know that somebody else was raising them and they were calling someone else mom. Even though I'd had a daughter, it still didn't replace my children. And that's what people need to understand. You can't replace children with children.
Right.
There's always going to be that hole and that loss, because those were my babies, and I'm their mom, and I wanted to raise them. And so there's that anger, and then there's grief and loss, and just all of that kind of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stuff, the stages you go through. So I start feeling like feelings. You can tell I'm like an empath. I'm a very feely type person.
Right.
And I start having these weird feelings. And so I reach out to Bethany in 2007, and my children write me back. They're teens at this time. They're about 14, 15. And just sweet little things with some pictures. But I just had weird feelings, and I didn't hear back from them for another year. And then my daughter gets a hold of me via email, and oh my God, the things that I had learned, I was just I was hysterical, and not in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter was not in school. My kids were held back in kindergarten, both of them. They were on Ritalin at 5 years old for ADD. They never adapted to the home, and they never reached out to me to ask me, hey, instead a counselor asked them, is it possible the mom did drugs? I mean, that was like a gut punch to me. Like, that was just so insulting. I mean, no, I was not on drugs. I mean, I even stopped smoking. I would go, clubbing. It was the early 90s, or it was, I would go out to the Safari Bar. It's a long ago bar. And as soon as I found out, I'd have a cigarette with my friends once in a while, everything stopped. I stopped going out, everything. I was very conscientious, nothing like that. And certainly no drugs. So that was an insult. It was like everything, the adoption trauma thing is real, and the thing is whenever there's something wrong with adoptees, well, what's wrong with their parents? It always would come back to me. Maybe it's the mom. I would always get blamed, not even the dad.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I found that out. Then my daughter was out of school. And when they found out she was talking to me, she had told me like there was different abuse, not sexual abuse, but there was physical abuse of both of them. The thing that hurt me as well was they had grown up with the adopter mom. Specifically, I will say this on the dad's part, although he had laid hands on my kids, and I don't appreciate that. But he, I guess, had prayed for me every night in their prayers. They made sure to tell me that, or my kids did. So what had happened was when they had found out that my daughter had spilled the beans, they requested her password. They got on there, and my daughter was dating a 21-year-old man at this time. She was 16. They knew full well about it because my daughter told me the adopter mom was taking her to get Depo-Provera shots. So I guess, and I actually have this screenshot, and I'd be more than happy later on to supply it for you to back up what I'm telling you.
Okay.
So she calls me and she says, oh my God, I need to get married to the guy, her boyfriend. They're forcing us to get married, or they're going to put him in jail for statutory rape. Oh. So my daughter was forced married off at 16 to a 21-year-old man, had a baby at 18. That marriage did not work out. I later on just found 3 weeks ago, or no, just a couple days ago, online on the dad's page, where he's gloating about how he was so happy that he took the liberty to solve the family problem by getting her married, and then he said it in so many words, but not nice words, to the young man, and called my daughter a literal bitch. The word bitch.
The adoptive father?
The adopter dad called my daughter a bitch because she, and I won't use her name, was being a bitch. I have that in print, and I do have it, and it's on, it's verifiable.
Right.
So it's just been trauma. It's been trauma, and it's been lies, and it's.
So you said they had their own children after this, did you say?
She had a son after she'd adopted 3 children. She'd adopted a girl first, which was a year and a half older than mine. So she adopted a girl in October of '89. Then she adopted my twins in August and September because they were like 20 days apart. And then in '95, I guess, this month, and Halloween, I'm thinking, because I remember my daughter telling me that, she had her own boy who was just like, that was another thing. Her son could do no wrong. And my children were kind of lost in the middle. The older daughter was very compliant, and she was very academically gifted. So she excelled, and she got praised for that. I don't think my children, my daughter, actually my youngest, my baby, has just been accepted to 4 universities. So I don't think that was the problem. I seeing the dynamic and knowing what my daughter told me, she had witnessed domestic abuse. She had witnessed verbal, just all of it. The mother had told her, you need to be careful. Do you want to end up like trailer trash like your mom, meaning me? Told my kids all growing up that I was a hateful person. So my kids grew up not respecting me. And so when I learned all of this, when I had talked to her in 2008, I was fuming. I was raging. I thought, I trusted you and I relinquished and placed my most precious asset I'll ever have with you. And this is how you treat my children and how you treat my legacy to my children. It was a horrible betrayal. And then the director was a real piece of work. She was married to a doctor, so she kind of, always had her head up in the air anyway. And because I was, alone and I didn't have family and I was driving an old bug and I was basically just getting by. To her, I looked like I was living in a cardboard box. So she would go back and tell them stuff that, oh my gosh, they'd be so much better with you. She can't take care of them. And so I talked with her in 2014. I got a hold of her on Facebook to let her know about what I'd learned and how concerned I was about all this. Well, she told me this, which is just another thing just to really shock me again about Bethany's need for transparency. She said, you never liked them. And I was, at the time, I just thought, wow, and now that I'm thinking about it, then I realized when I was speaking with Valerie and the others, that was an unethical adoption. You knew that I chose an open adoption. Had it been closed, I guess it wouldn't have mattered. But you knew how difficult it was for me. I placed them in foster care because I couldn't let them go. You knew how painful this was for me. So they had all these, they knew of my trauma as well to an extent. I was very guarded because I had trust issues because of all the things that had happened. So I knew not to tell them too much, but they knew, they obviously knew that I wouldn't have been at their front door had I had the support that I needed, had my mom been alive, should I say. This would have never happened.
Right.
So, for her to say that to me, so it's like, that is 100% unethical to place children in a home that I didn't want. And I told her this and she said, it's just nerves. It's just nerves. Everything is fine. You're doing the best thing and like yada, 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 that stuff. But for her to have said that and knowing full well that this was not going to end up in a good, aftermath, a good situation.
Right.
To go ahead and do that is just, I can't even wrap my mind around it. And I am angry because I do believe, like I said before, I'm not a fan of it, but I do believe there are success stories and some people are okay with it and I'm not going to argue with them. But I can say 100% Bethany Christian Services ruined my life. They did not help me. They did not empower me. They used me and they hurt my children and they blatantly, purposefully put them into a dangerous situation, which my children did suffer. My daughter
because it's
diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Twins are big money for them.
Yes, they are. And a boy and a girl is like the jackpot. And another thing, my daughter was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. The director's talking to me about this. She has an MSW. Like it's nothing. Well, I think it's more borderline. And I'm thinking, I can't believe what I'm hearing, Caroline. I'm just like, oh my God. You don't think this is a problem? Hello. I have 2 daughters, 7 years apart. Apart from normal rebellion and teenage angst or whatever, my children have never remotely ever showed any of this stuff. Never been medicated. Never, none of it. So, it leads me to believe again, it's nurture. It is nature, but nurture is a huge part of it. And Bethany Christian Services is not upfront to people about the way they facilitate adoptions. It is money and it's a $1 billion industry. So adoption reform really needs to happen. I hurt for people like Suzanne and people like that have obviously been really traumatized and really destroyed. But as a first mom, I've been destroyed too, but in a different way. I hurt for Valerie. I hurt for all the other people because adoption has touched us all. My children will never know their brother and sister, and that's also something.
Now, tell me why that they're both over 18 now. Did you?
Well, they grew up never liking me. They grew up hearing nothing but bad things about me. So and then because they had a hard life, how could they love me? If I was such a good mom, why would I place them in a home that they suffered in, whereas my daughters didn't? My daughter actually told me, at least they were lucky they got to be raised by you, I have it all in email. You know, that breaks your heart. You know, it's heartbreaking. And then to hear that my daughter still doesn't have a high school diploma, you signed a contract
Now,
telling me that you would take care of my children until they were 18 years old.
What
And you
did the
signed my
parents,
daughter away
do
to get
for a
married
living?
at 16?
What
What's
were
that?
what were their professions, the adopters?
She's a correctional officer. She was a homemaker at the time of the placement. He was in construction or whatever. I wasn't really, I don't know. I won't say any words because I don't know the right ones to say, so I don't want to put my foot in my mouth.
Right.
But she went on to be a correctional officer for the California prison systems. And he's still, I guess, in construction or whatever. They've had a very, this is hearsay from my daughter, but I will say I 100% believe her because her behavior and her life and her screaming for attention and constantly not being able to, sustain healthy relationships. She's going from relationship to relationship to relationship. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. We've tried to always reconcile and it always falls apart because the adopter will find out that we're in touch and she'll sabotage it. My son has always kind of hidden in the shadows because boys are different in the way that they relate to the mom, I think. I've always heard it's different. My son has not really, he's afraid, to rock the boat. So he basically, that's all he has. He has nobody else, and he saw what they did to his sister. So he doesn't want to take the chance of getting kicked out and rejected either. So I understand it. And my children, my parented children, never knew about that I had children before them because I was so grief-stricken and so ashamed, Carolyn, so ashamed that I did that. And they only found out through my dad, who's now passed on. I used to keep a bunch of pictures of them and their ultrasounds and stuff in a briefcase, and they would like to go through the family pictures, and they would always ask me, and I would say it was my sister's, but my daughter would say, but Mom, it's your name. And, my dad finally, one day I was at work and my dad told him, and my daughter was, I think, 16 at the time, and I told her. And then my adopted daughter, my one that I played, the twin, I'll just call her the twin, started immediately bashing my place daughter, the one that was born a year after them. So that was just a horrible, horrible thing. So there's no contact between either group. My parented daughters are best friends, and we have no contact with.
So your two children that you had after are two girls?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought you said the youngest was a boy. Okay.
Yes. My first children were a boy and a girl, and then my last, they were just one pregnancy. They're twins, and then my last were two girls, 7 years.
She just either misspoke there, I misheard or something, but that did not make any sense, what she just said. She said something like, she said, my daughter, I'll just call her the twin. And then she said something about my placed daughter. Well, the twin and the placed daughter would be the same person, correct? Let's listen to that again.
Bashing my place daughter, the one that was born a year after them. So I'll just, I would always ask me, and I would say it was my sister's, but my daughter would say, but Mom, it's your name. And, my dad finally, one day I was at work and my dad told him, and my daughter was, I think, 16 at the time, and I told her. And then my adopted daughter, my one that I played, the twin, I'll just call her the twin, started immediately bashing my place daughter, the one that was born a year after them. So that was.
Did you just hear that? So she either misspoke or something's going on. I'm catching a few inconsistencies. It could be misspeaking. It could be, I don't know. She just said adopted daughter, place daughter. Well, that's the same person, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Just a horrible, horrible thing. So there's no contact between either group. My parented daughters are best friends, and we have no contact with.
So your two children that you had after are two girls?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I thought you said the
I
youngest
have
was a boy. Okay.
Yes. My first children were a boy and a girl, and then my last, they were just one pregnancy. They're twins, and then my last were two girls, 7 years apart.
Okay.
Yes. And that's all. They were C-sections, so I was no more.
Right.
But it just, I mean, and I'm so grateful that I was able to have, because especially after losing them, I think I was purposely trying to get pregnant, because the loss was almost,
Yeah.
I don't want to say suicidal, but I just didn't care about anything anymore. The grief was so bad, and the abuse from the adopter parents. You know, they would only their dad had came back and encouraged me, do not put his name on there, the director. Their dad had came back in the picture, and I had reconciled with him. I was young and dumb, and I told him what had happened. He had called the agency because, see, they had told me, encouraged me, do not put his name on there, the director. Encouraged me to forget his name or where his location could be. And also because of his origin and his religion, especially, you know, like I said, that movie at that time, and it was a big hit, there was a lot of fear and unknown about that religion, and that was like a demon to them, to Bethany, because they were Christian and he wasn't. You know, it was, well, their dad's a Muslim, so that was another thing. It was like showing a cross to the devil, to the director. You know, she just did not like that. So yeah, I mean, it's an awful experience. I have trauma to this day. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, panic disorder. I have grief. I have daily grief. There's not a day that goes by, and I have to keep it inside because it hurts my girls, that I don't think about them.
Yeah, I imagine.
And I miss them, and I love them, but
absolutely,
it's something that you can never repair. And it didn't have to be this way, and that's where my anger comes from, because Bethany stood with the adopters. Once they got what they wanted from me, once my TPR was signed, I never heard from Bethany again. I never was offered, how you doing? Not even a phone call, nothing. I was never offered any type of post-counseling, which, and actually again in 2014, the director again divulged more stuff about me. She said, you know, you had postpartum depression. Well, if you knew I had postpartum depression, why wouldn't you offer me some assistance? So again, it's learning all of this stuff and just feeling used and abused. And it was just so obvious, even at that time.
Yeah, it's business to them. It's big business.
Yeah, it was. And it was just, you know, it was obviously I was a pain to deal with because I wasn't the compliant little thing that they were used to dealing with. I'm sure there was more like me, but I wasn't an easy one to deal with. I was very angry. So they were very happy to see me go on my way. But that wasn't what was in the agreement. The agreement was that there was going to be contact, and that, you know, they were going to care for them for 18 years. And when you sign an agreement and then you gloat about it and you force my daughter into a marriage at 16 years old, that's not parenting, you know.
No.
That's not parenting. My daughter just recently left, not even 6 months ago, you know, because she wasn't ready to leave. I mean, she'd finished college and everything, but it was like, you know, today it's different than it was back then. It's expensive. We live in California, and I would never have thought about ever. And my daughter was a little bit hard-headed, you know, to put her out or anything. I mean, I threatened it, but I never would have done it. I can only sum it up in conclusion. Strangely, my daughter, my twin daughter, and my children, my son as well, but mainly my daughter, ended up mirroring the life that I had growing up that I never wanted for them. But she got that life through adoption, through Bethany Christian Services. It's just so weird. It's just, it would be funny if it wasn't so tragic. It's just, it's something that it affects. My children have acute adoption trauma. They really do. They're 28, and my daughter still isn't settled. She's had 2 daughters of her own. Neither one of them are with her. Both of they're 2 different fathers. They each have their daughters. My daughter does not have them.
Oh, who has the children?
Well, her first husband, the one that she was forced to marry, or he'd go to prison, although
Right.
she didn't know at the time that wouldn't have happened. But, she didn't know. She was 16. She got pregnant with him, and he kept his daughter. When my daughter has issues with anger, there was a lot of cheating going on, and I guess she came home and he said, get out. And her fear of abandonment resurfaced because she's an adoptee, and it starts with loss. Adoption starts from loss. If people will just see what's going on and stop denying it, it's a loss, and I do believe it's a cellular loss, and all that. I'm not a scientific person, but I can't even imagine. I mean, I look at my girls, and I can't even give a dog away or a cat, let alone. So that's why my shame is so deep that I did that to my children. Mm-hmm. So the thing that I'm trying to say here is 28 years on, I'm still as grief-stricken as I was. Not as much, obviously, as time goes by. It doesn't heal it, but it goes further and further away. But there's still that space in my heart that was for them that will forever be ripped and open and oozing. Mm-hmm. And just, if people can open up that dialogue and understand it and stop saying that that's not true if they're brought up right, it's a loss.
Oh yeah,
it's a loss.
100%. I know what you mean, because when I had my first, when they had to go under the bilirubin lights, and they were jaundice in the nursery.
My daughter was too.
You had to leave them. You had to leave them there, right? So this was my first baby. I was 19 years old, and I had support. I was married. I had support. My mother was there. And when they kept saying, well, it'll go down, and I didn't know anything about the jaundice really, okay, and my daughters went high, and I was there at that time. I said, how late can I stay here? They said, well, you're here the whole day. So we stayed until like midnight on the 3rd full day after birth, and they said, it's still not down enough that she could go home. You're going to have to leave without her. And I told my mother, I cannot leave without my baby, right? And it was the most horrible feeling. And my mother said to me, now you know what it is to be a parent. And I said,
I remember.
I couldn't leave her. I was crying.
Home.
I said, you can't make me leave the hospital. They said, don't worry, you come back tomorrow. And I was nursing her too. So they said, you pump when you get home. And I'll remember when I got home, I left, and you didn't go out of the hospital like everybody else did with their baby and their balloons, right? You just and then I went home, and I remember when I called the nursery to see how she was, it was so new. I couldn't even say my daughter because it seemed so foreign, right, to say that word, my daughter. And the next day I went back, and she still couldn't come home. And I remember I had to go. My mother said, well, let's go back to the lake house, and your brother's there, because he came out. And I couldn't even concentrate on like anything else but where my baby is not here. Even though she was in the nursery and being cared for, I was like freaking out. So I can't imagine, if I had relinquished my child to someone that I couldn't. And it felt like forever until like the next day I got to take her home. Yes.
I have rheumatoid arthritis, like Zelda was talking about. And they do believe there's a correlation of grief and trauma and chronic cortisol release. It destroys your immune system. And I am 100%, I believe that. And my rheumatologist also believes that because of my past history, but also all this stuff before is nothing compared to what losing a child. Like I say, for me, it's a living death. And then to have your children turned against you and being afraid to talk to you because it will, because the adopter mom is so insecure and so narcissistic and lied, and if she wasn't okay with an open adoption, then she shouldn't have agreed to it. And that's another thing, it's not even about, people that are so desperate to adopt when they really don't want to have contact, but they say they will. That's not fair to the children, and that's not fair to the mother, the first mom. And that is, I think, my situation was that the adopter mom really didn't want to have any contact, but she agreed to it because any baby would do.
Right.
And, wow, a boy and a girl. And then also, she gave her husband's, which she changed their names as well. And she gave her husband his first name as my son's middle name. And it just makes me cringe to this day because I think about their dad, even though he's a jerk. It's so sad. And it was so senseless. And my kids they had parents. You know what I mean? They had parents. It's just, he's a wimp and he was a coward. I would have parented had I known and had people stood by me and let me know the resources. Right. Because I my children have turned out fine. I mean, parenting, like I said, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And it's probably the only thing I've really ever been successful at. I know that people say, oh no, that's not true, but it really is. I mean, I've turned out 2 girls into the world that are decent human beings that love people and will make this, this world a better place. So I feel that in that way, it's some redemption, but I just feel back on the Bethany thing quickly, and I won't take any more of your time because thank you so much for listening.
Oh, no, thank you.
But I think it's very important for adopters to know that it's almost like a football field is a line. You're on this side, we're on that side, because that's how adoption is structured in this country. It's almost like we're pitted against each other. And, it's the problem is the children, well, we want what's best for the children. Well, telling a child bad things about their parent is not what's best for their child, because my daughter was from me. My son was from me. So you're basically telling my kids they're crap, is what you're doing when you're talking bad about me.
Right.
So, the things that I heard they were unacceptable. And then when I brought them up to the director, oh gosh, no, my daughter had told me that the dad had broken her arm when she was 8. Yeah, wow. I cried over that one all day long. Broke her arm.
How?
She said that's the first time I'd ever seen him cry, and the adopter mom was yelling at him and didn't know how they were going to cover that up, but I guess they got away with it, saying that it was horseplay, that he would come home. This was what the director told me. This was her version, because I called Bethany, and I spoke to the director, or the general vice president that Valerie's engaging with as well. And I remember speaking with him in 2008, and he was just as nasty and rude as could be to me. And, okay, well, we'll open a CPS investigation, because they were still minors at that time. Well, the adopter mom got wind of this, and my daughter had to write a really quick letter, and everything was shut down super fast because she was afraid of losing her job. And, I was a liar, but it's all on email. It's all on email. I still have it, all the emails that my daughter had written to me. And so, it was just everything that they could do no wrong. And I was just, like I was a piece of crap under his shoe, the way this guy had spoken to me when I had voiced concerns about, like, hey, my daughter has told me at 8 years old that, her arm was broken, and, oh, no, what had happened, this was the director told me this in 2014. No, what had happened was that the dad would come home from work and he would horseplay with them, and they were wrestling. And I thought, wow, yeah, okay. No, it wasn't horseplay, because my daughter was actually whispering it in the phone, because I could hear him in the background. And it was almost like after he'd spoken to her in the hallway, asking her who she was on the phone with, it was like anger inside of her coming out of what she'd gone through with them. She said, and you know what else happened to me? Like she'd let me know little bits and pieces. So when they had banished her basically from the home, I remember her emailing me and her on the phone. Her voice was cracking, and she said, please, please, please don't lose contact with me again. And it's just been fraught with grief. I'm happy for people that have a happy story, and I don't know if that's just compliance. Like I do believe, I'm not saying I don't believe there aren't happy endings. I'm not one that goes all the way to one side or the other side. I can't speak for other people. I can only speak for my what is it called? My experience with them. And my experience, unfortunately, is so much like Valerie, underage birth mother, and a lot of other girls and women that have been injured by them because of this treatment. They get your baby, they tell you whatever you want to hear. They don't give you options. So if you don't know to ask, well, then you're tough out of luck. They just want to get what they can get out of you and get out of our hair. And that's how it's been. And so my kids are reaching 30. I have 2 granddaughters from my oldest daughter, and I'll never know them. My granddaughter has alopecia. I found out from my daughter. I have rheumatoid, so it is an autoimmune issue, although I don't know anybody in my family that's ever had it, although I'm thinking her biological dad might have had it, thinking back on some things. They've never reached out to me, Carolyn, not once, not once to ever say, hey, Chrissy, have you heard of this, or does this run in your family? Nothing. When my children were having all these behavioral problems, never, not once reached out to me. I would have been more than happy to have assisted or talked with the adopters, but they never gave me even that piece of respect.
Yeah.
To even nothing. And you know what I said to them the last time? My daughter was supposedly working as an escort and a model. This is the better life I wanted for her, Carolyn. In Los Angeles. She's very beautiful. Yeah, has the fake breasts and everything. This was the better Christian life that I wanted for my daughter, that I was promised. It's just, there's no relationship. It's broke down. There's just been so many times that we've tried and it just doesn't work. There's no more trust there.
They're only 28 though, right? You said they're 28?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
time. I mean, you never know. I mean, the 28 is young. I mean,
yes.
You don't know. I mean,
it's just, no, I know. And I hold that hope out, but it's just the grief of the disrespect and not, it's humanity. It's humanity. If you see somebody that's hurting, I mean, and like you just said, leaving your child, that pain, do they not have that in them to understand, well, how would I feel if the child that I just adopted, if someone just came and took it from me? It's just a lack of empathy and sympathy that I'm enraged with, and the way that they know it deep underneath, both of them. Now, there are some great adopters, but I didn't get them, sadly. There are.
I know. I have neighbors that adopted 2 boys.
I got shitty ones. Excuse my language.
Yeah, most everyone I know that I know personally that adopted, children at birth. My cousin did, and her daughter and her, they're still. She's never even, I think she went to search for her birth mom at I don't know how old she must have been, 30 or maybe in her 20s. And I know my cousin got really nervous. She adopted her. It was not an open adoption because it was before, it was in the 79 or something like that,
Yeah,
and,
right.
it was from a Catholic, not orphanage, Catholic agency, and it was a closed adoption. And, they baptized the baby right there before they would give it to my cousin, because they didn't even trust that you would baptize it. So it was right then and there. And and she, I mean, they were great parents to her. She loves the family. And then I know one Christmas, my aunt had said, Julianne will not be sending Christmas cards this year because Rebecca is going to look for her birth mom. And I don't know, I guess my cousin must have been really scared to lose her, but then it ended up, she met them and she said, they're lovely, but you are my mother and you have dad is my father. And, and they've never looked back, and she's always kept the same relationship with them and the family. So Yeah, and then I have neighbors that so I haven't had anybody that I see like could have adopted a baby and they abused them terribly or something like that. No, I didn't. Luckily, haven't been around that kind of
And
stuff.
you made the point beautifully when you just said that. And that's all I ever asked for was take care of my children, take care of my children. And I remember telling her that as I was sobbing and I was trying to keep my composure because they had their little girl with them. And I just remember saying, take care of them, trying to just, so I could get out of there. I was wobbling.
Right.
And it just seemed, that we were speaking two different languages and there was just a deep resentment, maybe because she thought she was infertile. I don't know. I obviously didn't have that problem, but, I sympathized with her, obviously, because that is sad, that was sad to me. But, to be shown and not so much, yeah, I can take it. I'm a big girl, but you do something to my kids.
Yeah.
It's like someone does something to my daughter. Oh my God, you do something to my kids. You've got an enemy for life. I mean, seriously.
My
I'm
daughter,
not even
and
gonna go
anytime
there.
my daughter tells me, like, she goes to tell me anything, she goes, you have to tell me, you swear you're not going to do anything. She acts like I'm really going to go and kill someone,
Yes,
because she tells me
exactly.
something
So
that
that's
they did
my
something.
main. Yeah, you hit it right on the head. You've said it perfectly, and it kind of came in a full circle. When you entrust somebody with something as precious as your children, you want to know each day. I was just going by my life thinking they're having a great dandy time, and that wasn't the case.
Right.
And it didn't need to be that way. If they were so difficult and they weren't adapting, but they didn't want to give them back, because what happens when you buy something? You own it and you purchase it and you want to get your money's worth, because that's what the adoption system in this country, at least with Bethany Christian Services, is set up like. It's a monetary transaction. Right. So the fact that they abused my children and treated them in ways that they should not have been treated, things that I did not witness, obviously, but my daughter told me, and I do believe her 100%. You don't have BPD. You don't go and do the things. I mean, just her actions portray somebody that's not stable. Well, again, that is a punch to my gut, because it's because of me that she's that way. You see, that's the shame I live with. And my daughter, my youngest, bless her heart, I can talk to her a little bit, but she'll be like, Mom, you just got to let this go. It's killing you. And I get what she means by that, but I tell her, sweetie, I can't let it go. I know what you're saying, but I'll never forget them. I'll never let it go. Those were my children, And
right. She doesn't understand it yet. She'll probably, when she has a child,
they get angry.
She'll understand it.
Yeah. And my oldest one is like, no, she's not my sister. And that hurts my heart too. So it's like, again, Bethany Christian Services facilitated an adoption that was not in the best interest of my children or myself, because the family was not on board with what they were saying they were. They were smiling in my face, but didn't like me. I felt the same way. So at that point, if she's this Christian, loving person who goes by the gospel as she says she did, and she had a duty as a medical professional holding an MSW, the ethical thing to do would have said, wait a minute, this is not something that's going to be good for you or you. It's obvious there's conflict here, and either walk away from it or say, you're going to have to pick, I'm not going to work with you if you don't pick another couple, because I cannot live with myself and place children in this environment. But no, she went ahead and did it, and then just kept talking about me to them. And I mean, I heard all kinds of things that she had said about me, and, and she didn't want to lose the sale. She didn't want to lose the sale, because if I'd gone somewhere else, somebody else would have got what, I don't know, I'm assuming at least 30 grand 28 years ago. I'm sure they would go up to upwards of 60, a boy and a girl now. So yeah, I mean, it's just, Bethany is not, let me just put it this way. If someone came to me and pregnant, first of all, I would advise them to try to obviously keep their child, not try to, but to keep their child, because you will have lifelong trauma. Your child will have lifelong trauma, even if they're raised good. Like you said, there are good instances but see, the doctors that your family and friends got were healthy people. You see what I mean, Carolyn? But see, because I was raised with unhealthy people, I attracted unhealthy people because that was what was familiar to me. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what it was. And now I could be like, oh my gosh, that would have never happened. But I was a 21-year-old kid basically. So in that respect, I also have to say that that was going on too. I'd been around dysfunction my whole life. So, even though I didn't like them or I didn't want to, I didn't feel right about them, it was something that I was familiar and comfortable with. So I just, it doesn't stop until you actively stop a cycle, any type of cycle. And so that's like with me, I held this in for 28 years. And so Valerie and me kind of teamed up, and I was so grateful to have her reach out to me. She's been so inspirational and so helpful to me, and a lot of other people on this Facebook group as well. There's a couple in Tennessee that have had their grandbaby illegally basically kidnapped from them, and they wanted her back, and they were actually going to get help because they were in their mid-50s, and it turned out, I guess, the grandbaby biologically was not. It's in Memphis, Tennessee, Bethany. And so anyways, this couple wants their grandbaby back. It's on, I don't know what his Instagram is, but I think it's DEC50, but you can go to Underage Mother at YouTube. I'm going to put a prop in here, and you'll see everything, and you can even ask her, and she can let you guys. I think it's really important that people know about what's really going on, because it's not a coincidence. There's just too many instances of these really tragic stories. I mean, I was listening to Val, and I was almost in tears. I mean, her pain was palpable.
Yeah,
it was just,
it
was palpable.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 13 years of this, and it's like dangling a carrot in front of a rabbit. It's cruelty, and it's almost, and that's what was done to me. Basically, my daughter also was told to never speak to me again, or she would be kicked out. And that was before she was basically threatened with her boyfriend going to jail if she didn't marry him. So it just the cruelty. Had they had what was promised, the better adoption and the better life that I was promised, otherwise I would have never done it. I wouldn't be on the phone with you today. But I just felt it was so important when Valerie had contacted me through a common thread on Facebook and said, hey, did you go through them too? And then we started comparing notes. I just thought, I still don't show my face, although I do have 2 videos on her YouTube channel briefly explaining the same thing I'm telling you.
Right.
It's a deep shame, and hopefully one day I'll be able to be more outspoken. But there is an element of fear too, because you're dealing with a huge corporation, and when you mess with people's money, it's scary, it's scary. So I give her props for coming out. I mean, she's put herself out on the front lines, Valerie has, completely. And so have Carl Smith and his wife, the couple that has had their grandbaby kidnapped and withheld from them from Bethany in Memphis, Tennessee. And then Megan also is an adoptee that was, her mother basically was threatened. Her story is on there as well. Her mother was injured by Bethany as well, and she's an adoptee. So there's just a lot of stories. And so I think it's important to listen to both sides, because there can't all be all bad and it can't be all good. But it's very important that they need to change, because if you look at the news, I mean, the border crisis with the children, it's just gut-wrenching, people having to go back home without their baby.
Yeah, and
they're getting
I have to look up because I remember back in, gosh, it had to be in the 1990s, right? There was because it was in the newspaper.
I'm old enough, I'd remember.
Yeah, and I think it was Bethany, because it was definitely a Christian adoption agency. And there was a case, I think it was out of Pennsylvania, and they had adopted a little girl. And I don't know why, I think she might have been from she might have been Asian, I'm not sure, but the mother, when the daughter was very young, had cancer and passed away, right? Aww. And so they took the baby away. The father fought and fought and fought, and I don't know that it's Bethany. I think it is, though.
It probably is, Carolyn. And they resold her, so they got double the price.
The
for
reason
child.
they took the baby away, and she was like probably 2 or so at the time, right? Wow. And just lost her mother, and the father was fighting, and it was because they had promised a Christian 2-parent home.
Okay.
And
Well,
the
you know
mother
what? I have to
died.
stop you for a minute, real quick, because
Yeah.
it's on the tip of my tongue. But yet they will. And I'm all for everybody. I lived in San Francisco for 6 years, but before they would not allow, especially in my time in 91, not that I never saw any of those portfolios. I would have considered them. But oh my gosh, adopting 2 gay or lesbian couples, that wasn't even something you talked about, let alone, But now, of course, they will do that. They'll concede to that. But by biblical, you're not supposed to do that if they go by the Bible and they say they do. But they are conceding to that because you know why? Because they get money for it.
Yeah.
So they're willing to bend wherever the buck is. That's another thing. The morals and the ethics, but I'm so sorry what you were saying about, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
just that they kept saying, and they were fighting, and he was saying, this is my daughter, and, I just lost my wife, and they said, I'm sorry, we were, this was supposed to be this way, but like, what if that child could have been the natural, I just thought that was outrageous.
No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, it is outrageous, and they've done a lot more outrageous things. And the more I research them, I'm finding out more stuff. And I just, as if I call myself a first mom, I used to use birth mom. I also am offended. I don't like that just for some reason, because I've learned what it means. It's adoption speak from the industry. So I want to distance myself because I've been hurt by that industry. However, I still want to keep an open mind. I'm not going to be like all one way or all the other way. I will say this to everybody. There are great people, and there are good and bad people in every people. I was raised that way, thank God. That was the one normal thing my parents did. They raised me open-minded and very accepting of people. However, I got bad adopters, and that's what sucks. And my kids suffered for it, and I'm going to suffer the rest of my life because I let my children down. So that, I guess, is the moral of the story here, that, adoption is something that it's not natural to give your child to anyone. Like you said, leaving your child, it's not a natural thing. And the way that it's done, it is like a business transaction. It's very cold, and there's so much deception because there's so few babies for so many people that want to adopt that they will tell you the sky is blue if that's what they need to tell you to get your baby from you. So the transparency needs to happen. They need to be held accountable for it. And adopters in all 50 states, whatever they agree to, there needs to be a notary sitting by, and they need to be held accountable. And I know in some states, off my head, I don't know which ones they are, but they need to be held accountable, meaning if they go back on it, they can be dragged into court. And I think if laws change and it's regulated, and that's the key word here, regulated, I think you're going to see a lot less of these disastrous adoptions. And that's exactly what I wrote that vice president guy 2 weeks ago that had talked to me like I was just a piece of garbage in 2008 when how dare me call and complain or concern about my children that I gave birth to, being abused or, not being in school at 16, not having a high school diploma. I mean, geez, I shouldn't worry about that, that my daughter's going to be relying on other people the rest of her life or her looks because they're not going to last forever. I feel immensely angry, and that was not the better life I hope from them. They failed my children. They failed me, and they did not raise my children right. They were not good parents to my children, and I cannot get past it. And sorry would not be enough. The damage is done. I mean, even if I had a relationship with them, and I would love nothing more than that, and I would always welcome them back. It's not going to change the anger that they have for me, and rightfully so. They have every right to have that anger to me because they would not have experienced what they did had I not chosen them. And that's what I live with. That's the shame I live with every day, that why didn't I pick different if I had to pick this at all? So I thank you so much. And I will watch your, I love love your, is it called a podcast? Not really.
I don't know. We just call it, what do we call it? Sometimes we call it a show. Sometimes we call it a broadcast. I don't know. I think it's a video
you have one
cast
more
or whatever.
subscriber here. I love
Thank
it.
you.
I love listening. It's been very entertaining, if you know what I mean, tonight.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
Yes.
man. I was nervous a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah, well,
but I was
thanks
like,
for coming
I'm gonna
on.
push through.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you for calling
you
in.
so much.
And prayers for you, and I hope the best. Pray the best
Thank
for you.
you so much.
All right.
Thank you for the platform that you give people. You're a wonderful listener, and what you're doing it's really helping people. And thank you for giving me this chance to at least give my version, and hopefully it might plant a seed somewhere, and I hope it will give some good and some insight. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you.
You have a great
nice
night.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye.
Jeff, are you still here? Where's Jeff? Where's Jeff? Wake up, Jeff. That's like the Wiggles. Wake up, Jeff. Jeff, where are you? He can't unmute himself? Are you serious? I don't know how to unmute him either. Oh, participants. You couldn't unmute yourself, Jeff? Where's Jeff? Unmute. Jeff?
No. I'm
Jeff?
unmuted. It just told me.
Oh, I just unmuted you. I didn't know you couldn't unmute yourself.
Yeah, because I'm not through the Zoom app. I'm
Oh,
through the call. I called directly to test it, for our other guests to make sure that it worked, and it did. So now we know. So I didn't go through the app tonight. And
okay.
everybody down here is saying that Goldie is Susan. No, I made a comment. Goldie is my dog that was barking and wouldn't shut up, and that's why I got muted.
Oh, Goldie's his dog. He said to mute him.
Yeah, they keep saying down here in the chat that Goldie was Susan. No,
no.
they're not one and the same. This dog was really just barking. Yeah, and I asked to be muted while she was going off. So anyway, I just want to mention this. I mean, a lot, well, not a lot, but I saw somebody down here in the chat, saying that they think the chat shouldn't be uploaded and everything. Well, my opinion on that, of course, it's ultimately your decision, is I think it's important because, for one, I missed most of the chat myself at the beginning.
Wait,
And
why?
for two,
What
because
happened in the
everybody-
chat, Jeff? What happened in the chat? Bad stuff?
Oh, I don't know. Just it seems to me as an observer here that there was a few misunderstandings, at the beginning of the show when everybody was riled up. We were in the heat of it and people were saying things and getting butthurt, I guess. But to me, there's been apologies down here and whatever from some of the participants, I guess. But everybody's kissed and made up now that's still left in here. But I think it's important because even if there are adverse type comments, I think it's important because everybody was just, like I said, there were emotions flying and everybody just typed whatever that was on their mind at the time. And so I think all of it should be considered important.
Yeah, leave
What
it
do
up.
you think?
Yeah, leave it up. People go nuts if the chat isn't up. The people that watch it on a replay, they go nuts.
Yeah, when they don't know what's being referred to.
They go nuts. Because sometimes if you have to make an edit, that's another thing with YouTube. I don't know. You lose if you just even go to cut something out, or to even do a change, put some music somewhere, change music. You lose your whole live chat.
Oh, really?
I don't know why
Wow.
YouTube can't why it can't save the chat, then fix the video and then put it back. But no, and people go nuts when that happens.
Don't you lose super chat too, or no?
No, you just lose the replay.
Oh, that sucks.
You just lose the replay.
Yeah, that sucks.
And then
Yeah.
people don't know,
Yeah.
who said what. Why is she saying that to, whoever, Lucy Liu, because I can't see what Lucy Liu said.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what the mods didn't delete, I think it should remain. I mean, to me, the subject is very important to me on a personal level. So, I mean, I knew it would open up a whole bag of worms, and a lot of times people don't realize that it's gonna trigger them in some way or another. But it does. I mean, just being a mother yourself, surely you can kind of relate, of course, because you've given birth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't imagine what it would be like, giving your kids away or whatever.
No, like I said,
But,
I
you know,
can't give an animal away.
Right.
I say goodbye to household items I give away. Tell them that I had a good life with them and to go on and I'm telling you, there's something wrong with me, but let's not go there. I'm serious, I do.
Do you have plant funerals?
I talk to my plants.
Yeah. That's why I didn't know if you had plant funerals.
Yeah, no, I don't have funerals, but I get very upset. I pray for the roadkill. You know, when you see like a possum or something on the side, I pray for them. Yeah.
My son used to name them, especially the ones that we would drive by the same one in process every day for a while until they got it picked up. But here we have like deer, that needs picked up right away, but they don't always get to it. Yeah. I know that's sick. But anyway, I would just like to reiterate, I mean, I've spoken to you before. I would sometime like to come on in a nice civilized fashion and tell you guys a little bit more about my story and where I've been when I was adopted twice. I mean, it's unusual, but I've always wanted to be able to tell people. It's something that happened to me when I was 15, and I've only alluded to it, in the past. Mm-hmm. But I would actually like to have a chance to, actually just get it out there and let people know other things that can happen that they wouldn't be, just totally aware of. Sure. And I feel comfortable that I'd be able to do that here.
Okay, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it ties in with the adoption scenario as well. So I don't want anybody out there to say, oh, there's Jeff. He's just going to be talking about the adoption. It's the adoption show now. I don't want to bother people with it.
There's always going to be that one person. There's always going to be that one person.
Right. It's going to be that guy again. And then I don't know I don't remember the name, but somebody down here, when the last caller came on, she was very good. And I enjoyed Zelda's call also. Mm-hmm. But after she started talking, somebody down here comments and says, oh, finally, this is the first caller we've had tonight that's even semi-articulate. And I'm like, I said, well, I do my best to come across as literate as I can. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, well, tonight was definitely interesting.
Fired up.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you nonetheless for being a gracious, tolerable host tonight. And, I think we overcame things. We're ending on a good note. And, there's a lot of people here that have dropped off, but there's also a lot that have stuck through.
Yeah.
They've endured it all tonight. Every emotion on the book.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. So that was. I was a little nervous there for a while.
Right. Understandably, you did great. Consummate professional. You know that.
Yeah. That's a good test. Uh-oh, did someone come in here?
Oh, somebody's zooming in. It's not me.
Oh, Zelda. Oh, that scared me for a minute.
Is somebody ringing back in?
It's Zelda.
Yeah.
Hi, Zelda.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I want to say something.
Sure.
I need to say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I really messed up by commenting something that I feel happened to one of the victims. I'm sorry, people. It was wrong of me to state what I did. I said that I felt fibromyalgia causes women that have fibromyalgia were sexually abused. And I believe people that I was told that by Dr. Bennett and also another rheumatologist. Dr. Bennett was the fibro god. And I have a tooth missing because I had a head-on collision with a drunk several years ago, and I'm getting my teeth fixed.
Oh.
And I got an infected post. Anyway, so I'm dealing with that. But anyway, I made a comment, and I shouldn't have. I said something about Shanann, that I felt she was abused. And that's why she had that hole in her heart, of needing to fill it with chopping because of my son's experience. And I don't mean
Beth
to
Wade
put,
just apologized to Zelda, I think, too. She said
I
she was a
I
part of that
don't,
conversation, and we,
I absolutely love Shanann, and I would give anything to have a daughter like her, or a stepdaughter. Not stepdaughter,
Daughter-in-law.
daughter-in-law. Yeah, I would have loved to have her, but I shouldn't have said that, and I apologize to everybody. And I want to clear up something about somebody said that I adopted a kid and then gave one away. That's not true. I had Daniel for just a few days. His mother was harming him, and she had mental illness, and it was just a horrible ordeal. And I got Daniel out of there, but something told me to give Daniel up to Brian and Vicky in El Cajon, and that's how I didn't adopt him. I only had him for a few days. Our lawyer had called us to adopt him, and it just didn't feel right, and that's why I gave them to Brian and Vicky.
Okay. All right. Thanks for
They
clarifying.
adopted him when he was just 18 months old, and it worked out very well. So it wasn't like we
Okay.
adopted him away.
I was just going to say, can we squash whatever's going on with Stephanie then and you down here and just be done with it tonight? I mean, just real quick. Just,
What
Yeah,
happened?
I'm sorry I
Steph-
said that. I'm sorry I said that. You know, I'm sure, you know, once things settle down with the Ruseks, they will, you know, share what needs to be shared.
Stephanie
when
just
somebody-
said, please ask you about the worst comment about children she adopted, please. It seems that chat only paid attention to Shanann's comment and was busy listening to the first caller. See, I wasn't here for any of that, but I noticed y'all been going back and forth down here for a minute. So
Stephanie,
squash
was
it,
that
man.
what she
Let's
just
just-
said about the having the little boy for a few days? Is that what you're talking about? I didn't see anything. You see, you have to fill me in.
Well, Stephanie, I'm understanding here. Stephanie believed that she said it in a crude way, like she adopted 3 children and gave one back. In that terminology, I think struck her wrong.
Oh,
Like she just gave the kid back, like it was.
I
you know,
think she
whatever.
just explained that. Are you good with that, Stephanie? Do you understand what she was saying? I don't know. She hasn't commented yet. No, the chat's done.
I've been seeing messages get retracted and deleted and back and forth. Yeah, just
Oh, I
y'all. I don't know if you know it, just get over
I was
it.
going to delete all my messages because I said something that was wrong, that I shouldn't have said anything about Shanann, that I felt the reason she had a hole in her heart and the reason she filled it up with shopping was because she may have been abused as a child.
Yeah, but that's another hot topic too. At least the whole
Yeah,
crap.
yeah.
So.
But anyway, we didn't adopt Daniel. We had him for just a few days, and I just knew that Daniel would be great for Brian and Vicky, and Brian and Vicky raised them from then on. And a week later, see, we were working on the orphanage. We ended up closing the entire orphanage down, and they all got put in prison.
Oh, okay. So Stephanie's saying she said she adopted 3 children from an off-the-wall weirdo?
Yeah, but she didn't like that. It was the terminology, I guess.
Daniel's mom was, if you had met her, you'd say the same thing. She was screaming, "Get this kid out of here. I can't stand him." And it scared me. And so we took Daniel that minute, and I didn't, our lawyer just said, "Go pick up this kid." And we had just gotten home from, I think we were in the Caribbean or something. We just walked in the door, and then an hour later we went to Daniel's house and picked him up. And the mother was screaming at me to get this kid out of here. I can't stand him. And I thought, wow, she's an off the wall weirdo.
I
And
don't think she intended to be like, oh, all those mothers are just nooning or anything like that.
right,
You only have so many words you can
she-
type down here, so it just got
she had
misconstrued.
she adopted several other children out. Maybe that's where, but the girls that we adopted, and we went through with it, and we waited for quite some time. And then the counselors kept telling us to send them back because the 11-year-old was drinking and running away and just causing all kinds of problems. And my husband was diagnosed with oral cancer. and he was going to die. And the girl was running away and drinking, but we stuck with it. We put her in rehab several times. We've turned our lives inside out for her, but she just doesn't want to be loved.
All right, and
And that,
says
and
what-
Daniel's mom, the little boy that we had for a few days that we gave to Brian and Vicky, Daniel's mom had adopted several other kids out.
Okay.
And that was before Daniel, so.
All right, and Teacup wants to know why you want to rewrite the Cadle book.
My husband and I were talking. I offered her $10,000 to take off her book by Friday, but I never heard back. And I thought maybe, I don't know. I asked my husband how much can I offer her, but I would like to take over the book and I have another friend who's a writer. He's written several books. I don't know, numerous Christian books, but then put it with a Christian.
With the same material? That's what you would work with?
Well, no, but with a Christian spin. Actually do what she said she was going to do. But I don't think I want to touch it. But I would like to offer her $20,000 to take off all the books by Wednesday. She said she's into it for $10,000.
Right, she did.
Yeah, I saw those, and I was going to offer.
This
her
woman,
twice that.
Zelda, I didn't even remember
I'm worried
this.
about the Rusex.
You're worried
No,
about the
this is the other
Rusex?
book,
She's
Alma.
worried
This
about
is
the
not,
Rusex. Did you
Kathleen's
hear what
book.
she just
This is
accused them
Cadle's
of?
book,
Yeah,
the one that's out.
Letters from
I'm not worried about the Rusex.
yeah. The no letters from Christopher.
Oh my gosh.
There are no
There's
letters.
something wrong with,
It's
like,
her
really,
rewriting
really,
it.
really wrong with her.
And I just think,
Okay, well, it looks like somebody else is wanting to call in. And
Yeah,
Anyway,
Jeff wants you off the panel. I think he
anyway,
can
yeah.
sense your hatefulness
we
too.
kept the kids that we adopted. We never gave up on them. We're still trying to help
She
them.
came up to apologize for something she said about
Daniel
Shanann
turned
and then
out
said
to
it
be
two
a
more
very loving
times.
young man. He's almost 38 years old now.
Oh, wow.
We don't bash victims on here, and
Okay,
your
so
your
anyway,
assumptions
just
of what
wanna
you did is
apologize
just
to everybody.
absolutely
I shouldn't
crazy.
say that.
Thanks.
It was just what I have been told.
Absolutely,
Okay,
little
well, thank
lady.
you
We
for
don't bash
coming in.
people here.
All right, thank you.
All
for-
right. Thanks.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And what she said after this is just
Okay.
horrendous. It shows her
Okay, I'm
true
going to
character.
give you the rest of the rest of these people.
Okay, thanks.
I just always think everything should end on a good note.
Yeah,
so
it
something
should.
like
It
that
should.
happens.
Nobody wants to end
Yeah,
it
definitely
on a
not
bad
with
note,
Zelda.
like have somebody storm out of the family dinner, right?
Right. So the biscuits and ruin everything. I've
That's
been there,
right.
done that.
You always have that crazy uncle, and I didn't have a crazy uncle, but I hear people.
I think I was the crazy one at the table.
There's some kind. I saw something, when I was doing the decals for my new machine. I was looking at things, and it said, "Crazy doesn't run in my family; it gallops." I thought I wanted to make that and just send it.
You're like a bunch of crazy gazelles up there. Oh man.
Yeah, it gallops.
But yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you letting you guys come on and for opposing views and whatever. But we need that sometimes in here. We need that everywhere. Diversity is the spice of life.
Yeah, absolutely. You need one of those? Yeah, I probably was.
You could make a killing off of those.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Especially in this family, in this Rambler family, right?
Oh yeah, they go
I
nuts
could
for
gallop
it.
in here and gallop, right? But we
There's gotta be a
embrace it.
plan
We
of
embrace the
alignment.
crazy. We embrace the crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
Not really.
I'm
Everybody
going to get that very
It's
Not
Yeah.
all at the
Right.
same time. Not all at the same time.
Right. When you were testing the Zoom and everybody's like, oh, it's like the baby bug. That was so funny. The Zoom started.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Let's see. 20,000 nuts, two scooters, yeah, assorted nuts, assorted
I'm
nuts.
growing. Something's wrong. Something's absolutely wrong. It shows in the numbers how bad off the dysfunctional we all are.
Oh my gosh. That's what I say, embrace them. Who's normal, right?
Yep.
Nobody.
Right.
Oh, all right, Jeff. Well, that was fun.
It sure was. I got an email in for you too.
Oh, okay.
So, all right. Well, let me know.
All right.
I mean, I know you've been covering some pretty intensive deep dive cases, but if you just need some comic relief to talk it off as well as serious talk, let me know.
Okay, very good.
And back anytime.
All
Thank
right.
you guys.
Take care.
Uh-huh.
All right, bye-bye. Oh, you have a high school reunion tonight, Diana? That sounds fun. That sounds fun. You going to watch Everybody Loves Raymond? Okay, have fun. Oh, all right, guys. I guess thanks to our mods, we went on early, so we've been on feels like forever and a day, right? Whew. Okay, so that's that, and I just want to clear up, anything Zelda says. Take that from where it comes, okay? If she's going to diagnose people with shopping addictions, and then first of all, she's going to diagnose somebody with a shopping addiction who she doesn't know, okay? And then say it goes back to childhood trauma and all of this stuff. Zelda, get a clue, okay? Just get a clue, because that's not true. And then you come up to apologize for it. And I know she's listening, okay, because she's been attacking me ever since. And you come up to apologize for it, Zelda, and then you double down and say, you insinuate that the parents will talk about it when they feel comfortable, as if you know there's something there, which there isn't. So you're not a lie again. And then you said another quirk about it. If I'm not mistaken, you said something 3 times, I believe. I believe you said it something a second time after the apology. But even if you said it 1 time after the apology, it's too much. It's too much what you said in the beginning, and I can imagine what the heck you were doing in the chat. But I've seen your hateful side, and you are beyond hateful. And you know what? It's right. It's your mother that didn't like you. It's your father that didn't like you. It looks like maybe concentrate on your own issues. But these people, this is what it is, and that's case in point. Some of these people, probably most of these people that are so hateful, and they call everybody out for being a bad mother, and they call people out for being a bad wife, and being a bad daughter, and being a bad sister, being a bad friend, being a bad this, being a bad that. What they really have and what they really are is one or all of those things, and they project that onto other people, and it makes them feel better about themselves. Think about all the things that woman said, right? She said her mother turned on her father hated her, her kids, what ended up happening that her daughters don't speak to her or something. The son hates her because of something. And it's these people that want to go and judge other people, even victims who are not here to defend themselves, because it makes them feel better about themselves. Zelda, take a freaking seat. You could not even shine Shanann Rusak's shoes. Take a seat. You couldn't shine Sandy, Frankie, or Frankie Jr.'s shoes. Take a seat, okay? Because those are my friends. I know them. You didn't even know them. You know what you know on the internet, and you're here with your big mouth flapping. Take a seat, Zelda, because if I ever put your comments up, things you have said about me, everybody would see how hateful you are. And don't even try to spin some Christianity into that, because there is nothing Christian about your comments.
Nothing. Sorry, guys. I don't like people disrespecting victims, and I don't like people disrespecting my friends, and I don't like people especially disrespecting anyone that is no longer here to defend themselves. Take some seats, Zelda. Wow. You can really see where her hate is coming from, huh? Work on yourself, Zelda, because that's why you're being so hateful and evil to other people. Worry about your own issues. Stop trying to cast blame on other people. And I know she's listening. Wow, she is just something else. Anyway, you know what? You know what, guys? We forgot to do word cookies the other night. Now I'm not going to make the whole month. Guess what? Now I missed a day. I'm not going to get the big award. Oh, no. No, remember, I think I missed 2 days. I'm pretty sure I've missed 2 days. Let's see. I think I've missed 2 days. I didn't even remember she said that, but yeah, I'm gonna take her to task on that one. It didn't even show me which we'll have to go back and see. Wait a minute, why am I not? What is it? Good murder of crows, all ribs. Okay, so let's see how many we missed, all right? Because we would have got the big award. We missed 2 days. We're not going to get the big award, but we can do them, so at least we complete it, right? Okay, we got that one done. Keep playing. Can't believe the month of March is over. The month of March is over. Oh, ending. Yeah, that's good. Very good, Murder of Crows. Oh, Vide, yeah. Very good. Okay, good, Murder of Crows. Oh boy. Oh look, did we get our thing? Oh, we did get our, even though we did the, oh wow, we still got our thing. Look, lucky us. Life is all about balancing the bitter and the sweet. Yes. Oh, I already did that. Tepid, you got Murder Crows? Is that you, Murder Crows? Let me see. That's a good one. Oh, Gail. Victoria got it. Very good, Gail and Victoria. And anybody else that got it that I missed. Just don't get upset if I missed it. But does anybody get this one? Exited, yeah. Hey, that was easy. Got one more. Okay, this. It's hard, but we got this, right? We've got it. There's no R. There's no R, murder crows. That one was good. Okay, I can't figure this out now. Let's see. What do you got, murder crows? Anything? Oh, setup. Ah, but that didn't work. Sup? Okay, murder of crows. And what's this other one? What's his last? This one wasn't so hard, right? And we're ready to graduate. To our advancement. Our advancement is in sight, guys. We just need this. I don't know why it's not suet. Sups. What's ups? We advanced. Now we're some more. We have to do some more. Just so we are who we are. And we always do at least the next one. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to be there, Murder of Crows. I see that one too, but I don't think that's going to be in this puzzle. Do you think so? I don't think so. It is. Wow, I'm surprised. They normally don't do that, murder of crows. Good night, little lady. I thought that was a baby bottle next to your name. Good, Al. Let's do this one and then we'll all call it a night. Ions. Nighty night, Slam RN. How are you? I didn't even see you come in here, Slam RN, did I? Nighty night. I didn't even see Slam RN get in here. I don't know. Oh, nods. Yeah. And oh, I know. There we go. Look at that. Okay, that was easy. That was simple. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless. Prayers. We'll see you tomorrow. Be good. Be kind. Be nice. Don't be a jerk. Don't be like some people that do things that are really bad and unkind and hate on people because they are not happy with themselves. Love you guys. God bless. Prayers and prayers for all that need them. See you guys first.